Today's notes are on solving linear equations. A variable. A variable is an unknown quantity, usually represented by a letter. A lot of times your variable will be like X or Y or the letter M, anything like that. That's a variable. An equation is a mathematical statement with two expressions set equal to each other. So like right here, this would be an equation. When you solve an equation, to find the value of to find the values of the variable or variables that make an equation true. So basically what we're going to be solving for is the value x. The value is called the solution to the equation. Inverse operation. Two arithmetic operations that undo each other to create equivalent equations. For example, addition and subtraction are inverse operations. So add and subtract, multiply and divide, something that undoes the other. Those are inverse operations. Now, properties of equality. These are math properties that are used to solve an equation, and I will be doing the math properties here when I'm solving this. The first step is to simplify the equation. Next, we're going to isolate the variables to look on one side of the equation, wherever the variable's at, and that's what you need to get rid of, you need to solve for. We need to eliminate any addition or subtraction on the side of the variable, and then eliminate any multiplication or division on the side of the variable. So right here, on the first one, you see this equal sign? I'm going to draw a line, because whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. The first step is to simplify. So the only side I can simplify is the left side. So on the left side, this number 2 is going to be multiplied inside. This is called the distributive property. That's called the distributive property. So 2 times x is going to be a 2x minus 2 times 5 is going to be a 10. Do not distribute the 2 to the negative 4 because the negative 4 is not in parentheses. So that right there is called the distributive property. That's called the distributive property. Next, we're still on simplifying the steps. So on the left side, I'm going to combine like terms. So the 2x and the negative 4x, those can be added together. Do not add 4x and add 4x, because what ends up happening is if you add 4x and add 4x here, you're adding to the same side of the equal sign. Keep in mind, whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other. So these right here are actually like terms and they're on the same side. So 2x minus 4x is going to be a negative 2x. And that's just combining like terms. Next, now I'm done simplifying. I need to isolate the variable onto one side. So the variable's on the left side. Now you have this x and the 2 is being multiplied. There's a multiply sign here, you just don't see it. But then the 10 is being subtracted. You always get rid of any addition or subtraction on the side of the variable first. Then you do the multiplication. So on this step right here, what I'm going to do is I need to do the opposite of minus 10. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So add 10, add 10. Whatever you do to one side, you're going to do to the other. That is called the addition property of equality. So then these cancel out, and now I'm left with a negative 2x equals 12 times 10 is going to be a 22. The last step, eliminate multiplication or division on the side of the variable. So right here, there is a multiply sign here, the -2 and the x. Opposite of times -2 is divide by -2. And that is called the division property of equality. These cancel out, and I'm left with x is equal to 22 divided by -2 is a -11. Now you can go back and you can check your answer. The way that I'm going to check my answer is plugging in the -11 right there where the x is at. I'm going to use my calculator. So I'm going to have a 2 parenthesis where the x is at. I plug in the number I found, which is -11. Now on the calculator, make sure you're using the negative key. The subtraction and the negative key are two separate keys in the calculator. -11, close my parenthesis, or actually don't even close it. I had to hit -5. -5, now I use the minus sign, not the negative sign. close my parenthesis, minus 4. Now that 4x, that actually means 4 times x. So times the x value I found was negative 11, hit equal, and I get a 12. So I did solve it correctly. Next one, there's my equal sign. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you're going to do to the other. On this one, I don't have to do the step 1 because simplify, it's already simplified. Now that says 1/3 times x plus 8. Now I need to isolate the variable onto one side. It's already on one side. Eliminate any addition or subtraction on the side of the variable. So right here, how it says plus 8, I got to get rid of the plus 8 first. So opposite of plus 8 is minus 8. Since I'm subtracting, that's called the subtraction property of equality. So then I'm left with a 1/3 x equals 3 minus 8 is a negative 5. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. That 1/3 is being multiplied to the x. You could go ahead and you can multiply by what's called the reciprocal, or that really says 1 divide 3, and the opposite of divide 3 is multiply 3. So I'm going to actually multiply 3 to both sides. And that is called, since I'm multiplying, it's called the multiplication property. Multiplication property. So now here, I'm left with the 3's canceling out, and I'm left with x is equal to negative 5 times 3, which is a negative 15. You can go back and check your answer on this calculator. I can type in a 1/3. I have the fraction key. 1 is the numerator, 3 is the denominator, times the x I found was a negative 15, and then plus 8. And I get a 3. On this one, I'm going to need to simplify. I need to simplify. So this one's just like that one right there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to distribute the 3. So 3 times x is a 3x. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Do not distribute it to the negative 5x because that's not in parentheses. And that, again, is the distributive property. Next, do not add 5x, add 5x. You remember, this is one side of the equation, that's the other side of the equation. These are like terms, so I'm going to combine like terms. So 3 minus 5 is going to be a negative 2x. And that's combined like terms. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to start solving. So I went ahead and I isolated the variable onto one side. I'm going to eliminate any addition or subtraction on the side of the variable. The variable's on the left side. That right there says negative 2 times x, and that says minus 24. So the opposite of minus 24 is add 24. And because you are adding, that is called the addition property. Addition property of equality. So then those cancel out and I'm left with a negative 2x. 18 plus 24 is 42. And then the last step here, because that says negative 2 times x, the opposite of times negative 2 is divide by negative 2. There's a multiply sign there, you just don't see it. So the opposite of times negative 2 is divide by negative 2. And that's called the division property of equality. So right here, the 2's cancel, and I'm left with x is equal to a positive times a negative is a negative. 42 divided by 2 is going to be a 21. Okay, right here on this next one, I'm going to solve this one a little bit different, okay? Because I noticed that I have two denominators, a 3 and a 5. So before I solve this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply what's called a denominator. If you were to get denominators here, if you have a 3 and a 5, the least common denominator would be 15 because I could just multiply them reversed. So right here, this is called the LCD, least common denominator. I'm going to multiply everything by the number 15. So I'm going to multiply everything by the number 15. And that's actually going to get rid of all my denominators. So like right here, that's going to be a 15 times 2 over 3x plus 15 times 4 minus 15 times 3 over 5x equals 15 times 35. Now right here, when I multiply that, I have 15 times a 2/3. And that gives me 10 and x. Or you could have done this. 15 divided by 3 is 5, and then 5 times 2 is 10. 15 times 4 is going to be a 60. And right here, look at, you have 15 divided by 5, which is 3. And then you're left with 3 times 3, which is a 9x. And then 15 times 35 gives me a 525. That's the purpose of multiplying by the LCD, the least common denominator. It cancels out all the denominators in the problem. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to combine like terms. So I have a 10x and a negative 9x, and those are on the same side. So I'm combining like terms. So 10 minus 9 is going to be 1x. Usually we don't put a 1 in the front of the x. Don't forget the plus 60 equals 525. And that was combining like terms. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 60 to both sides. So when I subtract 60 to both sides, x is equal to 465. When you go back and check your answer, make sure you plug a 465 there and a 465 there. Next example. Now right here, we are going to solve linear equations. What is the value of x in this equation? Okay, let's go back to that least common denominator. When we multiply by the least common denominator, it got rid of all your fractions. We're going to do that here. Even though you could possibly move the 8 and then multiply by 3, we're going to do it, we'll do it both ways. So the first way I'm going to do here is I'm going to just solve it the basic way. This one I'll solve it by multiplying the LCD. So here's the variable, it's right there. I need to basically isolate the variable. Let's get the variable by itself. So you see this minus 8 on the side. I'm going to get rid of the minus 8. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So now the 8's cancel, and I'm left with 2 parentheses x plus 4 parentheses divided by 3 equals 40. And that is the addition property of equality. Now here's the variable x. That all stays together, and then it says divide 3. So I need to get rid of the divide 3. So the opposite of divide 3 is multiply by 3. So now the 3's cancel out, and I'm left with 2 parentheses x plus 4 equals 4 times 3, which is 120, and that is called the multiplication property. Because I multiplied to both sides. Now here you could do it 2 ways. You could go ahead and you can distribute the 2 if you want, or you can divide by the 2 and solve for x. I'm going to go ahead and just distribute. So 2 times x is going to be 2x plus 2 times 4 is going to be an 8. That's a distributive property. Of equality. And now since there's the x, you don't want to get rid of the times 2 because it's glued to it. Let's go ahead and let's get rid of the plus 8. Opposite of plus 8 is minus 8. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So now I'm left with a 2x equals a 112. And because I subtracted, that's called the subtraction property of equality. And then the last step, you're solving for x. So opposite of times 2 is divide by 2. So x equals a 56. And that was the division property. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is by multiplying by that denominator, which is called the LCD. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply everything by the number 3. So I'm going to have 3 times 2 parenthesis x plus 4 over 3 minus 3 times 8 equals 3 times 32. Right here, the 3's cancel. So all I'm left with is 2 parenthesis x plus 4 minus 3 times 8 is 24. And 3 times 32 is 96. That is a multiplication property right there. Here's your equal sign. Whatever you do to one side, you're going to do to the other. However, right here, I need to simplify. 2 times x is going to be a 2x. 2 times 4 is going to be 8, and that's the distributive property. And then right here, this is combining like terms. Those are like terms, and they're on the same side. And 8 minus 24 is going to give me negative 16. So here, this is a multiplication property. This is a distributive property. This is combining like terms. And now what I'm going to do is now that the variables by itself and is simplified, I can go ahead and start solving. Do not get rid of the 2 because the 2 is glued to the x. Go ahead and get rid of the minus 16 first. Opposite of minus 16 is add 16. So 96 plus 16 gives me 112. And then the last step, since that says 2 times x, opposite of times 2 is divide by 2. So then x equals 56. And look, it's the same answer. So I personally like this way better just because I can get rid of all my fractions at the very beginning. Next part is going to be consecutive integers. Now, consecutive integers are numbers right after one another. So like 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Those are consecutive integers. If I start off with 10, the next number is going to be 11, 12, 13, and so on. Let's do negative numbers. Like let's start with negative 8. If I start with negative 8, the next number would be a negative 7 because you're adding 1, and then you're going to add another 1, add another 1. So right here, when it says what's the pattern, if the first one is going to be an x, to get the next term, all they're doing is they're taking the x and they're adding it by 1. To get to the third number, they add another 1, which is technically x plus 2. To get like let's say to get the 5, that's really x plus 3. So that's the pattern right here on consecutive integers. Consecutive odd integers. So let's start off with the odd number 1. The next odd number after 1 is going to be a 3, then a 5, then a 7. So you're counting every other number because you want all the odds. If we start off with 7, and so on. So we do the odd number 15. 16 is even, then it would go 17, 19, 21, and so on. So we think of the pattern here. Let's say the first one is x. To find if that was 1, how do you get the 3? Well, you hit the at 2. How do I get the 5 from 1? I add 4. So to get the next number, that would be x plus 6. Consecutive even numbers. So right here on the even numbers, let's start off with the first even number, which is 2. After that's going to be 4, 6, 8, and so on. If I go ahead and I start off with the even number, say 10, the next even number would be 12, 14, 16, and so on. If we start off with like, let's say 22, the next even number is going to be a 24, a 26, and a 28. So when we think of the pattern here, if the first number is x, how do I go from 2 to 4? You are adding 2. How do you go from 2 to 6? You are adding 4. How do you go to 8? You are adding 6. So that's a pattern on this one. Now right here, on the first example, it says the sum. The word sum means to add. The sum of 3 consecutive integers. Now consecutive integers is this pattern right here. So you're gonna have 3 consecutive integers. So the first one will be x. The next one will be an x plus 1. And the next one will be an x plus 2. So 3 consecutive integers is means equal 132. So this is what we're solving. Now right here, the parentheses really don't play a role because we're just going to be adding anyways. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to combine like terms. So x plus x plus x plus x is 3x. 1 plus 2 is 3. I'm solving for x, so I'm going to go ahead and I need to get rid of any add or subtract on the side of the variable first. So I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides. So then 3x equals 129. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide by 3. So x equals 43. So the first number is going to be a 43. The next number was we added 1, so that's 44. And the next number was add 2 to the x, which is 45. So let's go ahead and add those 3, make sure we get 132. 43 plus 44 plus 45. 132. Let's do this extra problem. The sum of 4 consecutive odd. So we have odd here. On odd, pay attention to the pattern, okay? Because remember, if this was x, how do you go from 1 to 3? Well, they added 2. How do you go from 1 to 5? They added 4. So right here, it says the sum of 4 consecutive odds. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the pattern right there. So it's going to be x plus 2 plus x plus 4, x plus 6 is 296. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers right there. I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. X is 4x. 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. You are solving for x. So get rid of any add or subtract on the side of the variable. So I'm going to get rid of the 12. So 296 minus 12 is 284. I'm going to divide by 4 because that's just 4 times x. So x equals 71. Now remember, that's going to be the first odd number. 71. To get the next one, you add 2, add 4, and the last one's 77. All right. Next, we're going to go into some mixture problems. So right here on these mixture problems, I'm going to go ahead and read it out first, and then we'll fill in the chart. So it says a lab technician needs 25 liters of a solution that is 15%. So on one side of this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the percentage of all the acids for a certain experiment. But she only has a solution that is 10% acid and a solution that is 30% acid. How many liters of the 10% acid solution and 30% acid solution should she mix together to get what she needs? So right here, I'm not going to put anything in this column. Now, remember, she has a 10% acid solution and a 30% acid solution. So right here, this is going to be item 1, which is going to be the 10% acid. And then in here, it's going to be item 2, which is the 30% acid solution. And she wants the 15% acid solution, which is going to be the mixture. Now here we're going to put the amount. And here we'll put the percentage, and here's going to be our total. So it says a lab technician needs 25 liters of solution that is 15%. So right here on the 15% solution, the amount's going to be 25. She needs 25 liters of a solution that is 15% acid. Right here, the percentages, we can actually write those in right now. This one is going to be the 10%. This is going to be the 30%. This is going to be the 15%. Now it says, but she only has a solution that is 10% acid solution, 30%, that's right here. We don't know what that is. How many liters of the 10% acid solution, 30% acid solution should she mix? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I know she needs 25 total. If I label this as X, this has to be 25 minus X. Because say that's 10, then that'll be 15. If that's 15, that has to be 10. Because these two added together have to give me a 25. I'm going to multiply across. So X times 10 is 10X. Right here, I'm going to have a 25 times 30. So let's see what that is. 25 times 30 is going to be 750 minus 30 times X is 30X. And then right here, I'm going to have a 25 times 15 because I'm multiplying across the row. What you are solving is this right here. So I need to add down. So basically 10X plus 750 minus 30X has to equal the 375. I'm going to combine like terms. The 10X plus the negative 30X is going to be a negative 20X. I'm solving for X. Do not get rid of the times 20. You have to get rid of the plus 750. Opposite of add 750, subtract 750. So 375 minus 750. Now I need to get rid of that times negative 20. Opposite of times negative 20 is divide by negative 20. So keep in mind, 18.75 is right here. That's of the 10% acid solution. So I'm going to need 18.75 liters of the 10% acid solution. And then to find the 30%, I need to take 25 minus that number. So let me see, 25 minus the 18.75. So this right here is the 10% acid. And then let me see, 25 minus 18.75, that equals 6.25. And that one is of the 30%. So right here, I'm going to need 18.75 liters of the 10% acid solution and 6.25 liters of the 30% acid solution. That's what's needed. All right. Next one says 4 friends use an online coupon to get discounts on concert tickets. If the discount is $15 per ticket and they spend $312 for the 4 tickets, what was the price of 1 ticket without the discount? So right here, I'm going to let P equal the original amount. Let P equal the original ticket. Now it's going to be discounted by $15. So the ticket minus $15. Now, because they bought 4 of them, I'm going to multiply all of this by the number 4, and the total price they spent was $312. Now, there's 2 things you can do. You can go ahead and you can distribute the 4, or you can actually divide by the 4. I know majority of students would go ahead and distribute the 4. 4 times 15 is going to be a 60. Now get rid of any add or subtract on the side of the variable. So right here, I'm going to get rid of the minus 60 first. So I'm going to go and I'm going to add 60 to both sides. And that's going to be 372. And then the last step is to divide by 4 to both sides. So 372 divided by 4, that equals 93. So what was the price of the ticket without the discount? It was $93. The original price of each ticket was $93. All right, now on this one, this is going to be a distance problem. Now, distance is equal to the rate times the time. Now, this is for enhance only. Latoya will walk her bike from her house to the bike shop, which is 1.5 miles away. She will walk at a rate of 3 miles per hour. So basically, in 1 hour, she can cover 3 miles. She expects to wait 30 minutes for the repair. She will then ride her bike home at a rate of 10 miles per hour. Can she be home in 1 hour? So right here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the time walking. Now, we're going to do the time walking. Since we're looking for time here, see how that says D equals R times T? If you're trying to solve for T, the opposite of times R is divide by R. So D over R equals the time. So we're going to take her time walking, the time waiting, and the time riding. And we're going to see what her total time is. So right here, for the time walking, I'm going to use the D over R. The time waiting right here, it says she's expected to wait 30 minutes. So that's going to be an automatic 30 right there. Time riding, once again, I need to do D over R. And when you see what her time total is. So for the time walking, right here, it says LaTanya will walk her bike from her house to the bike shop, which is 1.5 miles away. So right here, she's going to walk 1.5 miles at 3 miles an hour. So the distance is going to be 1.5, and her rate is going to be at 3 miles per hour. Now the time coming back, she would ride her bike home at 10 miles an hour. Now keep in mind, if it was 1.5 miles there, it's going to be 1.5 miles back. But now she's going at 10 miles an hour. So right here, when I'm solving this, I can go ahead and I could multiply everything by 30. If I multiply everything by 30, that would be the common denominator. Because see how right here, that's a 3 and that's a 10. So the common denominator is 30, so that's the LCD. So if I multiply this by 30, the 3 and the 30, 30 divided by 3 is 10, and then 10 times 1.5 is going to be 15. 30 times 30, and actually I need to change this to the time. So I don't want to write 30 minutes. That's actually a half an hour. So I'm going to do 1 over 2, sorry. That's a half an hour. Because we need to keep these all the same units. Since the bottom is going to be in hours, right? So this needs to be in hours. So that's why I'm changing it to 1/2. So right here, 30 times 1/2 is going to be a 15. Right here, 30 divided by 10 is going to be a 3. So I'm basically left with 3 times 1.5, which is 4.5. And then 30 times t is going to be a 30t. So then 15 plus 15 plus 4.5. Divide both sides by 30. So I'm left with 1.15 equals the time. So that's how many hours it's going to take her. So the question says, can she be home in 1 hour? No, she cannot be home in 1 hour. LaTanya cannot be home in 1 hour. Last one. Kelsey visited a flower shop to buy some roses and some tulips. She bought twice as many tulips as roses. Roses cost $5 each. Tulips cost $2 each. If Kelsey spent a total of $36 on flowers, how many of each kind of flower did she buy? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let R equal roses. And I'm going to let T equal the tulips. So it says, Kelsey visited a flower shop to buy some roses and some tulips. She bought twice as many tulips as roses. So let's keep that in mind. She bought twice as many tulips as roses. Roses cost $5. So I'm going to set 5 times R. And tulips cost $2. So it's going to be 2 times T. And she spent a total of $36. Now this is where I'm going to go into how it says she bought twice as many tulips. So because she bought twice as many tulips, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the tulips. So right here, I'm going to replace that with a 2R. Because of that, she bought twice as many tulips. So whatever the roses is, she has to multiply that by 2. Now I'm going to solve this. So this is going to be a 5R plus 4R equals 36. I'm going to combine like terms. And then I'm solving for R's opposite of times 9 is divide by 9. So the rose is going to be 4 roses. Now remember that the tulips was equal to double the roses. So the tulips is going to be 2 times 4 now. So tulips is 8. So she bought 4 roses and 8 tulips. So Kelsey bought 4 roses and 8 tulips. And that concludes our notes.